All right, so after the hurricanes this year, a lot of people found themselves not just without power, but without gas at home. They couldn't use their stove, they couldn't cook. So here's a couple ways that you can cook your food, because your food's probably gonna be thawing if you don't have power to your fridge, which you should, and I'll talk about how to do that, but that's another video. But for now, I'm gonna show you some creative ways to cook your meats before they spoil, including with a solar-powered, no fuel required grill. So because I'm going to use the solar grill, I'm going to cut this into slices. It makes it a lot easier to cook. It also helps you cook it evenly, and I think it actually cooks a little bit faster. So I'm just using this biltong slicer. You can use any knife, of course, but what we're going to do is start by just slicing the meat. All right, so the first thing you want to do is look for any visible signs of mold, greenish deterioration. Chances are your fridge might have been off for several hours. This is why I have a freezer outside that I can run from a generator, and that does a couple things. One is I keep just the important, like emergency food. It stays totally solid frozen, and it gives me extra time if the power goes out, because it'll go from frozen to thawed to spoiled, rather than just regular fridge where it goes from refrigerated to spoiling pretty quickly. All right, so we're taking this out of the bag. There's gonna be some blood, so I'm in a Ziploc bag. All right, so I have this in the bag. Looks really good. It's still cold. Smells quite nice. Now, what I'm gonna do is not season this. I'm just gonna slice it. And the reason I'm doing that is because I can season it after, and also I wanna give a little bit to my pets. You can't feed them steak if it's heavily seasoned with garlic and pepper. That's toxic for dogs, so I always season it after I cook it, and I think it also keeps more of the moisture in. All right, so I just have my, all right, so I'm using the meat slicer, and I'm just gonna cut this into strips. So you'll see here that one it slices real easily. All right, so I got the meat slice. I'm gonna just throw it back in the bag. If you did want to season it and marinate it, I mean, this is not just for emergency survival, it's also for camping, you know, so it doesn't have to be totally austere. Make it taste good. Season it if you want. Again, I season mine after I cook it. All right, so we have it in the bag, cut into strips, and now I'm gonna take it outside and show you a couple of the cooking options. All right, so normally you're gonna, grill your meat, cook your meat, but you don't have gas. This is the point of this video. I'll show you how to cook an alternative method using a solar grill and using a camping stove. So one reason why I always keep my propane tanks at least half full, if not completely full, it's not just for entertaining and being outside, it's for being able to cook, being able to provide crucial warmth in the winter. Although I think there's better ways to provide heat than just using gas, and I'll explain that in a moment. But you really want to preserve your gas for cooking your food, especially the food that is starting to spoil because you've lost electricity also, which could definitely happen after an earthquake, and you saw it happen after the hurricanes this year. So what we're going to do is bring out our solar cooker. This is my favorite way to cook without power, and of course it's great for emergencies, but generally what is useful for camping is useful for emergencies and vice versa. So I use this thing all the time. Take your gear camping, get very familiar with it, figure out what its limitations are. Better yet, figure out how to use it while you can still use YouTube because you have power and internet. So the way this thing works is you put the meat, and this is why we sliced it earlier, into the tray here. All right, so this is for the cooked meat. And as long as it has sunlight for about 20 minutes, it'll cook just fine. And this also works great for sausages. You don't even have to cut the sausages, they just go right in. So we're gonna drop our meat chunks in there. Remember, we're not seasoning this at all. I'm going to be able to save a little bit for the dogs, just in case, you know, this is to simulate you have to evacuate, you didn't bring dog food, you have to share your human food with your dogs. You know, delicious seasoning is probably not even going to be one of your top 10 priorities at that point. But for camping, of course, you know, you want to, comfort is one of your priorities. So comfort and taste. So of course you can season this afterwards. But we have our steak, tri-tip, I guess this is, and we're putting this in the slot right now. We're going to angle it towards the sun. All right, and we'll check back in a little bit. It's definitely beyond room temperature, but let's check in about another 15 minutes, see how we're doing. All right, well, you'll notice that the sun has already set. So the sun is not directly on the grill right now. The sun is already behind the trees. But let's see if we were able to get it done in that 20 minutes. You can feel the heat radiating off this thing. And we're slowly climbing to 120.